Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be creating the location section for the property detail screen. So let's get started. First thing we need to do is go into our components and add a new section. Let's call it location section. So we just need to do export const location section. And it is going to take in a property. And that's going to be of the property type. So we'll save that, and then we'll just return a fragment for now. And let's go and add that to our property detail screen underneath a divider. So location section, and the property is going to be equal to item. Okay, so let's add some imports up top. Those are going to be view, flat list, style sheet, text, material, community icons, and map view. And then locally we will import get state abbreviation, row, map marker, and theme. And down below, let's create our styles. So our first component is going to be a text component with a style of default margin vertical, and that is just going to have a margin vertical of 10, and it's going to say location. And then beneath that we'll have a row, and that will have a style of map header container, and within that row, we'll have a material community icon with the name of map outline, and we'll have a text component next to that which just says map. It'll have a category of H6 and a style of map text. And beneath that, we'll have some more text, which is just going to be the address of the property. Now, underneath our address, we would like to render out a view, which will hold a map. So we will give it a style of map container, and that will have a width of 100%, height of 250, margin vertical of 10. Overflow will be set to hidden, and it will have a border radius of 5. And within that, we will render a map view. The provider will be Google. The style will be equal to styles.map, which is just a width and height of 100%. And then the latitude and longitude are going to be equal to that of the property. And then within that, we will display a map marker with the color of our color-info 500, a latitude of property.lat, and a longitude of property.long. And then we need to go into our map marker here and just make onPress optional, and it will get rid of that error there. And now we can go and check it out, and it's looking pretty good now. We can have this interactive map on our property details screen to show where the property is located. Now, underneath of this, we would like to show some different scores for the area. So for instance, one score would be the walkability score, and the next score would be the bike score, and then if there's a third score, it would be a transit score. So what I'm going to use for the walk score, bike score, and transit score is this API from walkscore.com. It's actually made by Redfin, if you're aware of who they are. Pretty much all you have to do is go here and get yourself an API key, and then you can start calling their endpoints. And this is an example of what an API response would look like. So you'd have this walk score, you'd have this description, and then if you want, you could get transit, although all of the different addresses that I have tried are null for transit, so I think they have a different API for that. But you can get the bike score here. So I'm just going to use walk score and bike score. So to utilize the walk score and bike score, I'm going to create a new type within my types folder. It is going to be called score.ts. And I am going to export this type of score. It will have a type which will either be walk, bike, or transit. It will have a score which will be a number, and it will have a description, which will be a string. And then I'm going to go to my property type, and then I'll add an optional field here for scores, and that will be of the score type, and it will be an array. So we just need to import score here. Now let's navigate to the properties within our data folder. Now to cut down on some bloat here and make things a bit easier on myself, I'm just gonna keep the top 5 properties and get rid of the rest. And now within each property, I'm going to add a score field with the corresponding scores for each different address. So for the first one, it will have a scores array, the first object being type of walk, the description is very walkable, and the score is 73. And for the second object, it will have a type of bike, a description of very bikeable, and a score of 72. This is what it will look like for the second one. Here's the third one. Here's the fourth one. And here's the fifth one. Now with these added, let's go back to our location section. So here underneath our map, let's display the scores whenever they are present. So we'll say property.scores, question mark. We'll just display a fragment for now. Otherwise, we'll display null if they don't exist. So what we want to display here is a custom component, much like these on the screen for the details and the fees and the pet policies, something like this, which is just a card for displaying the detail of, the location. So let's create a new component. We'll call it scorecard.tsx. And for this, we need to import pressable, style sheet, view style, text, and material community icons. And then we need to import row, theme, score, and open URL. And then we will export our component here. It'll take in a score, which is the type of score, and then an optional style, which will either be a view style or view style array. Now let's go ahead and add this to our location section, just so that we can see it whenever we're building it out. So back here in location section, instead of rendering an empty fragment, let's render out a flat list, and we will have a scorecard for the item that we want to render. So let's import this. And let's start to build out our scorecard. So back here in scorecard, instead of returning this fragment, let's first create our styles, and then we'll create a function which opens the URL for how walk score works. And here within our return statement, we will render out a pressable component, and on the onPress event, it will call handlePress. And whenever it does get pressed, we will add this active background style to the styles. And for the first style here, container, it will have a border radius of 5, border color of theme color-gray, border width of 1, padding of 12, width of 250, and justify content to space between. And active background will have a background color of color-gray. And then underneath that, we'll have a row, which will have justify content to space between and margin bottom of 30. And then within that, we'll have some text, which will display the score type followed by the word score. And that will have a width of 75% and a category of H6. And then next to that, we will have a material community icon with the registered trademark. And next to that, we will have the text for the score. Now beneath that row, we will have the description for the score. And that will pretty much sum up this card. So let's try it out. Whenever we press it, we get taken to this redfin.com, how walk score works. And you have to implement this in order to use the API. It's part of their rules, where if you press the walk score or the number here, it has to take you to this site. So with that done, let's add some styles to the scorecard back in location section. And the style for scorecard here is going to be a margin right of 10. So this looks pretty good, although the map is way out of place. So let's go and check out a different property. So let's try out this one and see what it has for its scorecard. So it's very walkable, but the bike score is a 68, which just is bikeable. So that's how you guys can create the location section for the property details screen. I hope that this was useful, and thank you for watching.